Welcome to Smart Women Talk. This is your host, Katana Abbott. I'm a midlife millionaire coach and a certified financial planner, and I search the world for smart women and a few good men, including best-selling authors and thought leaders who are on that leading edge. So join us for conversations on money, business, health, and inspiration so you can live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Hi, and welcome to Smart Women Talk. This is your host, Katana Abbott. And today at Smart Women's Empowerment, we are launching a 90-day challenge to help you meet those year-end goals with ease. And so you'll actually be in momentum in 2023 when it arrives. So be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss a thing. And for those who want to, you can actually join our community at joinsmartwomen.com. That way you'll get our newsletter, you'll get all of our announcements, and you'll know who's coming up in the show and what our topics are. So I'm really excited about today because we're going to be speaking with Colleen Kilpatrick about how to set and achieve your year-end goals. So Colleen is going to share a couple of fun things with us. What do you do when the stars align with your goal before you're ready? How to think, be, and act bigger to achieve bigger, and the 3 keys to staying focused until fruition. So let me tell you a little bit about Colleen. She's no stranger to Smart Women Talk. She's hosted some shows. We've worked on some projects together. Colleen Kilpatrick is a marketing consultant and speaker by training. 6 years ago, while recovering from open heart surgery and the death of her spouse, she decided to turn her husband's bachelor home into a guest house. The result was the Red Maple Retreat, which is a lovely furnished rental in the charming village of Milford, Michigan. When demand for space at her rental exceeded supply, Colleen embarked on a new project to turn her own home into a vacation rental, all within 30 days. Now, I'm not kidding. So I cannot wait for you to hear about this. Colleen is a student of personal development and the art of manifesting, and you are just in for a treat with her. So Colleen, welcome to Smart Women Talk. I'm so excited you decided to come and join us here and share how you manifested this Airbnb. I mean, the whole project, in fact, was just amazing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katana. And I haven't seen you in a month, and that's because I have had my head down focusing on this project for 30 days straight, 12, 14-hour days. So it's good to see you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's really fun. And, we happen to be neighbors. We've known each other for many, many years. And I'm just excited that we can do these things together. We'll be doing some more things for Smart Women Empowerment too.
Yeah, looking forward to all of those things. So thanks for having me back.
Yeah, so let's go back a few years. So for the last 5 years, you've run this Airbnb called the Red Maple Retreat. And it really is cute as a button. You are the best at marketing. You've got a Facebook page for it. What is the name of the Facebook page?
Red Maple Retreat.
Just Red Maple Retreat. And so anyway, can you tell us a little bit about this whole thing, how it came about? And then I want you to talk a little bit about what happened in COVID, because for a lot of the people listening, either their careers, their family, their businesses, were really, really shaken up when COVID hit, and it happened to you as well.
Right. Yeah. So I started the business in 2017, right after my heart surgery. My husband passed, and it was really a blessing. It was a wonderful thing to focus on. And I was humming along for 3 years. Meeting wonderful people from around the world who stayed at my place. And then 2020 happened and we went into lockdown, and I had a guest who was staying there when that happened, and she continued to stay for a couple of weeks to the end of her stay. And then I had a young couple who was in real estate transition. They had sold their home in Florida. They were on their way north when the lockdown happened, and they needed a place to stay. So they stayed for a couple of weeks. But then after that, so probably about the April 2020, my schedule just opened up. There was nothing on it. And I thought, what am I going to do? I mean, vacationers weren't going to be coming for the foreseeable future. And so I asked myself the question, and I remember Anthony Robbins always said, if you ask yourself different questions, you get different answers. So I asked myself the question, who else would need or want to stay in a furnished rental in Milford, Michigan, if not a traveler? Like, who else? And three groups came to my mind. And one was medical professionals, because if you'll remember at the time, a lot of doctors and nurses were moving around and coming in to help fill the need for emergency rooms and ICU units. So I looked at that group. People in real estate transition, like the young couple who I had, my second guest during COVID. And then the third group was people with insurance claims on their own home. So floods or fires, they have to leave their house in order for the work to be done. But I had no idea how to market to those people. So I set about to figure out, how do I connect with those groups and what do they really need? What are the words they need to hear to choose my place? And I started marketing to them. And within a few weeks, I had my first insurance claim. A family came who had had a fire. They had a couple pets, and they stayed at my place for 3 months. And they really turned my thinking around about my rental. I went from, because of them, from a short-term rental, I had people for 2 nights minimum, to a 30-day minimum, which was such a blessing, because the transition between tenants is where the greatest work is. And now all of a sudden I had people staying for 2-3 months at a time. And then, one thing happened after the other. I had people in real estate transition or building a home, and the rest is history.
So you originally, I remember you were renting out for the day, renting out for the weekend, really short term.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, the rentals just ended.
Yes.
Those rentals, because people couldn't be around, and then you pivoted. I mean, that is just so brilliant to do.
Thanks. The other challenge was, not only were people not traveling or flying, remember, I mean, nobody was moving, but they didn't want any of us to come into their space, or they were very concerned across the industry about staying in a place that other people had been in, right? So our cleaning standards went way up, and we had to bleach everything, and it was like arduous work, but it had to be done. And so I thought, this model is not working right now. I got to switch gears. So it worked out well to switch, and I became what's called a medium-term rental. So not short-term, not annually, but medium-term.
Now, are you still considered Airbnb with the way you've pivoted?
Yeah, I still have an Airbnb listing and a VRBO listing, but for the most part, all of my leads come from elsewhere now.
That's really innovative.
Oh.
So let's talk about, what are some of the challenges you were facing? You mentioned the idea of COVID caused people not to want to, they were scared that, I remember just going to hotels, how we'd clean everything down and bring our own pillows if we could. And so what were some of the challenges that you faced when you decided to pivot like this?
Yeah, so I had a crew of people who would help me, and all of a sudden I couldn't employ them. That was challenging, and I was seeking ways to be able to continue to give them work. So that was one of the things. The cleaning standards completely changed. But also I had to decide, am I a short-term rental or am I a long-term rental? Because if I had short-term bookings, then I couldn't receive the long-term bookings at all. So I had to completely change how I did that. I had to declare myself medium-term rental and set up a 30-day minimum. So I did that. And that's what happened. And that's kind of what led to my own having the opportunity to rent my own home, is that I started to have these long-term bookings, but former clients wanted to come back. And so what happened this summer is that I had a woman, an 80-year-old woman, who had a fire in her home and was displaced. And she was staying at my place for 4 months. But I also had another booking following her, and for a 6-week stay from a repeat customer. And what happened was, her insurance placement company, their temporary housing company, called me and said, she needs to extend a couple months. Can you do it? And I said, I have another booking already. And they said, well, is there any way you could make it happen? And I got off the phone. I said, let me think about it. And I thought she could stay at my house, but my house was not ready. I mean, for the past 5 years, I've put lots of money into my rental at the cost of my own house. But I had been looking and trying to decide what to do with my house, and had been talking to a builder and had been selecting fixtures and whatnot. And so I said to him, listen, this is the opportunity we have. We have 30 days. And at that time it was about 35 days. I said, can you work for me starting August 1st? And can you have these projects done by the end of August? And he looked at my list, and it was a long list. We were totally redoing the deck, tearing out, putting in, gutting the kitchen, gutting the bathroom, painting, getting new furniture, a lot of stuff. He looked at the list and he says, I can do it.
Colleen, that is totally crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy, right? And I had a lot of doubts because I had heard about supply chain issues and it's hard to find good workers. And I said, Todd, I'm going to have to make a commitment to this lady. So you have to make a commitment to me that we do this together. And he's like, yeah, we can do it. And I said, I'll hire people to do things that you don't need to do, which I did. And we got on it. I mean, that day, I didn't have time to pack up my kitchen in an orderly fashion. I had tubs, and he and I just like dumped all the contents of my kitchen cabinets into these tubs, and away, off we went. It was crazy.
So during that time, how did you make it through with your schedule, and how did you stay, how did you keep yourself from going into fear? Because I know that as a believer in the law of attraction and manifesting, you're always talking about staying positive and trusting the process. How did you make it through that? Because I know a lot of people, I mean, literally, you were going to do all those projects in 30 days when you hear all these stories that most people can't even get things done in a year. I mean, people just don't show up. They can't get access to things. Tell us a little bit about that experience, and what were you doing for yourself, and how did you keep him on track?
Yeah, so he was awesome. I really didn't need to keep him on track. He was awesome. I just can't praise him enough, and a great attitude. But yeah, so there would be moments that doubt would pop into my mind, like, oh, we're not going to be able to get supplies, or somebody's not going to show up on time, or delays. And what if it does? I'd have doubts. And then I'd immediately catch myself. And I have a mantra. I mean, you know the mantras that I have. And I would say, we are turning my home into a darling furnished rental in an easy and a relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way, in its own perfect time for the greatest good of all. I keep repeating this to myself because I would look around, and because we were doing everything simultaneously, the entire house was like we had shaken it up and dumped it out. Every inch of the house was a disaster, from dust and sawdust and plaster dust to boxes from Amazon of fixtures that were coming, tools, cords, electrical cords, hoses. I mean, everything, craziness, right? And I would recite that mantra, but then I'd also say to myself, what is the highest and best use of my time at this moment? It's not worrying about whether or not it's going to happen. It's like, what can I do today to move this project forward? And that would just put me back on track. That was what I had to do on the job site. Now, mind you, I wasn't staying in my house, Katana, which was a huge bonus. I had the opportunity to go stay at a friend's house. I rented a room from him. Brought my 2 cats because I knew my cats probably wouldn't survive this whole process. They would have been freaked out. And so I said to Todd, my builder, I said, listen, I'm going to move out of the house. Here's the key. You come and go as you please. I don't need a kitchen sink. I don't need a toilet. I don't need any of that, because we were changing everything, right? Even the toilets. I said, take it all, because we won't need them. Because I didn't want him to be hindered by my presence or thinking that I wasn't awake yet. He just showed up at 6 or 7 in the morning whenever he wanted to. So that was a huge bonus to be able to not have to live there. But it was totally a mind game, because if I looked around up until the 29th day, if I looked around, I thought, no way. And then I think, no, we're going to do this together. So I had to have a team on board. I had to have a really strong vision to share with them. And then everybody just stayed on target and did what they had to do.
It sounds like one of those TV shows where they come in and redo the house and it's all crazy and they're ripping out walls, and then the day of they're going crazy, putting everything back together and cleaning, and then the people walk up and the house is done.
Exactly. It's exactly what it was like. But we didn't have the advantage of, somebody splicing together scenes in the background. Like, it was the real deal craziness. But there was magic that happened in the process too, because I really wanted to work with a designer, somebody who could help me stage the house and just look at it with new eyes. And I'll tell you what, I had a mindset that I was going to find a designer. I had been looking, but again, I've got 30 days. I've got to have somebody who's available. And I happened to be at the Trex display, returning my Trex samples. And I met a woman and she introduced me to her designer, and we all hit it off. And that designer became my go-to girl. I mean, I'll tell you what, I call her Rima Bell instead of Tinkerbell, because she came and sprinkled fairy dust on my house, and it turned out magically. Even when it was in chaos, she said, "Don't worry, we're going to get it all done." And she did. She's amazing. She was amazing.
And I remember you even manifested the money in such a magical way so quickly.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I had to do things differently. I had to think differently in order to make this happen. And one of the things I had to do differently was not rely on my own money. I had to get a loan and go into debt to some degree, but I got a great deal. Everything fell into place so easily. I really had to learn to accept the leveraging of debt, which other developers and people do. That's what you do. You leverage a little debt to make more money, which I did. I had to get comfortable with that, but it wasn't easy. But yeah.
Well, and also the way you have structured your Airbnbs, you are really at the maximum level of income that you can be getting because you're working with insurance companies primarily, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Works out much better. And, the service that I'm providing, if you think about an insurance claim, think about this 80-year-old woman who I did not want to have to leave. She had a fire. She was in distress. She had a dog, and she had to leave her house. She was in a hotel for 8 weeks and hated it. She had one window to look out. And for her to come into a house that's fully furnished and equipped with a backyard and flowers and trees, it just put her at peace. And so to think that a family could have that kind of space instead of having to stay in a hotel room, which is where they normally stay, that gives me great personal satisfaction. I mean, that is my why. That was my why for doing what I did. So she wouldn't have to leave, and my other guest wouldn't have to be displaced either.
Well, and also you're in a beautiful community, which people who don't live here don't realize that. But she can walk into the downtown, and it's a little village.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Big trees, gorgeous big homes, like old stately homes, which is just so neat. So now you said you had a lot of tips. And so what were the daily actions and practices that you used to make all this happen? Is that what you had wanted to share with us, or was there something else?
Well, that and what I learned during the process, or how I had to be different or show up differently, Katana. I think that's interesting because I'm not a decisive person. I would not call myself a decisive person. And when you have 30 days to do all those projects, you had better learn how to be decisive. And I think that's the thing. So the tips that I would like to share is like, what do you have to do or be? How do you have to be different in order to achieve big goals? And I think that is a thing that was a real eye-opener for me. I had to act like someone who achieves big goals and achieves them quickly. So I had to think bigger, and I had to act bolder, not hesitant. I said,
give us an example, just the fact that you decided to do this in 30 days. I mean, because that really was kind of insane.
Yes. So I'm more of a planner.
Yeah.
I would plan it out, and, I would have, analysis paralysis, right? I'd be analyzing and who's going to come in and what time are they going to come in and when are they going to leave? And there was none of that. I just had to move boldly forward. So that was a biggie, because I think sometimes we do get an analysis paralysis and we don't move forward. So that was a big part of it. I had to get help. You know, a lot of times when people want to achieve a goal, they want to do it on their own, or they think I can just go forward and do this. But I couldn't, right? I don't know how to hang cabinets, and I didn't know how to do all that. I had to rely on other people, but I had to find really good people. So creating a team was important. And then being able to share my vision and my why. You know, they had to know that I was doing this so this woman wouldn't have to leave, and this woman I wouldn't have to cancel her reservation. So
you're saying you got them to buy in on your project.
I got them to buy in and had to remind them it wasn't just about fixing up my home, which felt selfish. It was because I was trying to accommodate two different people with two different needs. And that's how I was going to do it.
So I want to add something to that, Colleen.
Sure.
When you got them to buy in, because I'm thinking about our listeners, and I said that we're at the year end, we've got 120 days till December 31st, 2022, for those that are listening live, right? But just think, if you you have 120 days, we're calling it a 90-day challenge so people can end early. But this idea, I don't get fire under me until I have a deadline. So It sounds like having that deadline. How important is a deadline to our listeners? And how important was it to your people working for you and for you?
It was huge. It was huge. So the deadline, because Todd, my builder, like we had been talking about working together for a few months. But as soon as I said, I have a deadline now, we have to be done by September 1st. Can you do it? That put the fire under all of us. Like we all became very focused, which is the next thing I was going to share, is that we were super focused, right? A lot of times when we set goals, we let other things come in the way of the achievement of those goals. I mean, just life, right? But I put blinders on. I put blinders on, and every day, that was my main focus. Just every day, it's like, what can I do today to move this goal forward? Who do I need to call? What do I need to order? What do I need to decide on? That was my primary focus. So focus is super important for the achievement of a goal. It can't be willy-nilly, like, little here, a little there. No, I was on it. I had to create an action plan. So again, that's my natural way. Like I'm good at creating action plans. But what I did for this project is I went into each room and I stood in each room and I said, what do I have to delete from this room? And what do I have to add to this room to make this work? So in some cases, it was deleting furniture or clothing in my own room. And I have to add paint, or I have to, in my second room, I have to get rid of all my office stuff. My second room was my office, all my files, all my desk, chair, printer, all has to go. And then I have to put a bed in, and all the bedding and the art and this and the that. So each room had a subtraction and an addition element to it, which was really clarifying. It was very helpful, even for any goals. Like, what do I have to get rid of? What do I have to add? So that was helpful. And then I had to ask myself each day, what can I do today to move this goal forward? How to get this goal closer to attainment? And that helped me zero in on the most important thing. You've done remodeling before, Katana, so you know that a lot of times you can't possibly think of everything that needs to be acquired or done in advance. You can't. You don't know what's coming down the pike, but you know what you need to do today. I couldn't select the whatever, let's say backsplash, until I picked the countertop. I couldn't really select the countertop until I knew what cabinets were going to go in. So every day there were new things to decide on and determine and make decisions on. So every day that question was important. I had to be really decisive. And again, when it comes to permanent things, or semi-permanent in this case, I'm not so good at that. Like countertops, backsplashes, light fixtures. In fact, my light fixtures, I probably ordered 8 of them from Amazon, looked at them, but you don't really know a light fixture until you have light coming through it. But we didn't hook them up. I just would have to hold them up there. So my builder installed one that I thought I loved. And then one arrived that I had forgotten about, that I had ordered in the beginning. And I liked it so much better. And my friend, who's my house cleaner, was there. And she looked at it. She goes, "Oh, that's a Colleen light fixture if I've ever seen one." And I said, you're right, it is. So we switched it out, put the new light fixture in, and my builder came in and he's like, "You changed the light fixture." Because being decisive is not always easy for me for things that are kind of permanent. So, but the other thing is, it's not just about being decisive. It was really about taking decisive action. And what I mean by that is that at one point, I had to fire the person who was my painter. I had hired this guy. He had, great story that he shared and good marketing, and told me that he had a business and so on and so forth. And the first day that he was available, he couldn't come in the house to paint because they were doing sawing and whatnot. So there's too much dust. So I had him do the outside jobs, which was painting some pillars, painting all the exterior doors, giving them a fresh coat. And after he left that day, I wasn't there. I was out shopping. When I came back, I saw paint drops and paint smudges on the front porch, and no prep work done on the areas that were peeling, and probably 20 spots that were missed when he repainted the doors. And I thought, I've got to let him go. And I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to let him go. I don't want to tell him that his work wasn't up to snuff for me. But I did, picked up the phone and I said, "I appreciate the work you did for me today, but it seems clear to me that our standards for painting are very different. I'm going to have to let you go. I found someone to take your place." I just put it out there. He was so not happy, but I had to. I didn't have any time to dilly-dally. And so we got another painter in and he did a great job. But
and how did you go about finding another painter so quickly?
Yeah.
Did you use any manifesting, skills?
No, I didn't. No
magic wand?
No, my builder was well connected.
Okay.
And he said, "Colleen, I know somebody who I think would be available or make himself available to get this done." And he was there that day. The day I fired the guy, he came in and gave me an estimate, and he started the next day, and 7 days straight he worked. He was wonderful.
So you just shared about 8 tips. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll make sure we get these out and make them available to everybody in the community too. So for those that are listening, just make sure that you go to joinsmartwomen.com and we'll make sure that you have access to that list. Yeah. So Colleen, is there anything that you would like to, anything we've missed, anything else you'd like to share? Because you really are the greatest at manifesting. And, one of the things I'm just going to share before I have you do this is we were in your car, and on your windshield, you have a little sign that reflects up into the window, and it's backwards, but it reflects and it says, "Things are always working out for me." Mm-hmm. I get goosebumps. Literally, I have goosebumps right now saying this, because so often we think the opposite of that. We live in fear. We live in doubt. How do you stay so positive? Because you've had a lot of things that have happened to you in your life, and that are pretty difficult.
Yeah. So I'm not always positive, and that's why I have those signs around. It was funny. One time I got pulled over by a police officer, and he saw that sign, and he didn't give me a ticket. I'm like, right on. So, I think you need to constantly be filling your mind with positivity and be around people who are positive and listen to positive things and watch positive things, because it's easy to be negative. When, that's our survival mechanism, is to be negative, is to look for things that could hurt us. So we have to constantly be doing the opposite to fill our mind with positivity. Mm-hmm. So, and that said, one of the tips that I would share with anybody who's wanting to bring a goal about, in addition to the things I've already shared, you got to take care of yourself. Despite the fact that I had very long days, I still got up early in the morning and did some form of self-care. So I meditate in the morning, even if it wasn't for long, I meditated. I did Qigong, which I love Qigong. I do classes online on YouTube. And it's not only calming, but it's very energizing. So that was a wonderful practice to have in the morning. I have to eat. I'm not one of those people that can go hours without eating. So I had to plan my meals and eat the healthiest I could possibly do, because in order to achieve anything in life, you need energy. You need personal, physical energy. And you get that from many different things. But one of them is my energy practices and eating well, right? And sleeping, right? So when things are as intense as they were for 30 days, like I had to have that to sustain me, to keep me going. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been there for the team. If any one of us had gotten sick, that whole thing couldn't have happened, right?
Right.
So I had to be there. So self-care is so important every day of your life, but especially when things get heated up.
So part of the self-care is fun. Are you coming back and joining the painting class with us?
Yes. So I have missed that because that was part of my being focused. I stopped going to the painting class. So yes, I will be back to do that. I feel like a free woman now because my guests are all happy. They're in their house. Everything went well. And now I'm a free woman for a month and a half.
We've really missed you.
Oh, thanks. I miss being there. Believe me. I brought my painting supplies with me to my temporary abode. So I have them.
Well, I know you have a cottage up north, so you've got lots of fun options, but I am just so proud of you. And it was really a brave thing to do. And I want to share that, we have a lot of women listeners, and, the whole thing started when your husband passed. And because you had been a caregiver for him, because he had a long illness. And before that, you were a caregiver for your parents. That, we talked about it on an earlier show, on one of our prior shows, that you really had to pivot and think outside the box. How are you going to generate income? And look what this has turned into.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey, growth journey, right? You got to be, in order to achieve something different, you have to be someone different.
Yeah. And you never give up. So Colleen, thank you so much. How can people connect with you? Because do you have both of your places on your Facebook, the Red Maple Retreat? Can they learn about both of them now? No,
that's a great question. No, the second place is not on yet. So I haven't even started marketing that yet. Yeah. But Red Maple Retreat is on Facebook, is on Instagram. And I have my own personal pages on Instagram and Facebook, just under my name, Colleen Kilpatrick, LLE for Colleen. They can connect with me that way by all means. I'd be happy to support people in the achievement of their goals, because I know, sometimes when you're going after something, it might feel like you're completely alone. It's nice to have a community like this, Smart Women, to know that there are other women who are achieving things. And, we're there to help one another.
So people can come connect with you there. And if they want to learn more about what you do, and maybe they can learn from you, you can do a little coaching with them.
Absolutely.
That would be great. That would be great. And if anyone's interested in having Colleen share her story, they can reach you there too.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you, Colleen, so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. It's been fun.
Thanks.
Okay, everyone. So you can see this is a great way for us to kick off our 90-day challenge to bring all your goals into fruition. So if you want to join us, and I hope you do, please be sure to subscribe and like our channels. You can go to joinsmartwomen.com and you'll get Smart Women, Smart Choices every month. You'll know who our guests are. You'll have access to all the goodies. We have all kinds of great things coming up, new classes, and you can get into the Smart Women Academy. So anyway, this is Katana Abbott. Thanks for being with us. Until our next show, go out and live with more purpose, passion, and prosperity. Smart Women Talk is brought to you by Smart Women's Empowerment, a 501c3 nonprofit project of United Charitable. Music by Bill Lucas from his album When It Rains. Available on Apple Music and Spotify. Catch us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and be sure to join our free community at joinsmartwomen.com to access all our free Smart Women resources.